everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits and welcome to the recap of the October 2020 ChemKnits Dye-Along live stream. Last month we dyed some yarn inspired by fall, rich autumn colors of deep oranges and greens and reds, and brought it all together to create these stunning colorways. For the first time I had two inspiration photos. The first was this bewitching fall forest, and the second was based on some leaves that I actually went and picked in my own yard. And you can see here, comparing the leaves to the yarn, we did a really good job getting the color on the yarn. I mean, I think these colors are pretty spot on, especially if you take into account the fact that these leaves that I just showed you are now dry. It's been, a few days, so they've dried out just a bit. But color-wise, we did great. The live stream started with some color swatching, where I pulled a lot of new to me burgundy colors, orange and browns, and combined them with some that I'd already had in my stash. All of these colors are Dharma Trading Company acid dyes. We looked at saffron spice, blazing orange, golden poppy, honey mustard, and then for our more deep red / purples, Cabernet, plum dandy, berry crush, and eggplant. And I guess espresso bean is very purpley as well versus being a brown. And then finally I looked at teddy bear brown, pecan brown, and forest green. These crude swatches are done with just some dry powder on the skein so we can get a sense of their relative hues more than their intensity. And it's just a quick and dirty way to compare the colors to one another. So that way I can really narrow down my choice. So that way I can pick the right red that isn't too pink or too purple and things like that. So ultimately I decided to use plum dandy, golden poppy, saffron spice, and forest green. And of this list of 4 colors, the three of them that I picked were all ones that I've used before. But I have to say that honey mustard really excited me. And I strongly considered adding that and blazing orange into the mix as well. I mean, I just felt that I didn't need quite that many colors. As for our swatch, I did add a tiny bit more color to it, but we also moved it around in the pan, which lets some of the colors spread and blend. And this is awesome. The green and the more pink, they just work with all of these autumn colors. And this feels it would be very Thanksgiving-y. It's very fall, and I really like it. There are so many different ways that you can play around with these swatches. You can go heavy and add more and more color, but sometimes letting the dyes speak to you and seeing them spread and deciding I wanted to capture that base brown color is just a lot of fun. For the actual colorway, I took those 4 colors and we layered them using the dry powder in the pan, randomly applying them, but trying to make sure that there's a little bit of each color all over the yarn. The results are so fall, and this plum dandy really deepened into that more sort of deep burgundy Cabernet tone. I considered going straight with Cabernet, but I knew from how the colors might blend with all the orange in here that using this tone, I felt that it might give me closer to what I was going for, and that worked. Now, there are differences between the skeins. Like some have more deeper patches of colors, some have a little more green. That is just the reality of this random type technique. So if you work to use all 3 of these skeins in one project, I recommend blending them together a bit so that way there's not a clear shift when you switch from one skein to another. I love this colorway and the richness we have in here. My only regret is I sort of wish that I pumped up that volume a bit more. Having less color in there meant that we got some of the golden yellow hues that we see here. Because if I tried to intensify that golden poppy, it really would feel a lot more orange, we would feel less yellow. So maybe if I were to shift to say honey mustard or something that is more yellow versus only looking yellow when it's a little less intense. I don't know. I sort of want to do this again with these same colors and pump up that volume and go even more saturated. So while this fits the color inspiration, I am feeling incredibly inspired and plan to play with this again, maybe as a Dye Pot Weekly episode or something, but I want to go bigger with some of these colors and be a little less hesitant, but nevertheless, I am beyond thrilled with this colorway. My main delight in this colorway is that I really wanted to play with orange and yellow and red in a way that didn't feel sunset and it didn't feel Halloween. And I think that anyone can look at this and say, yeah, that's inspired by fall leaves. And so I am just thrilled. I am so thrilled. Because while I love the color brown and that sort of dustiness that we had in our first swatch colorway is stunning, I wanted the brightness of these hues to shine through, like when you go leaf peeping. And so I didn't want the colors to become too brown. I would have been happy adding brown to the colorway, but I just wanted to have that orange and green and red. And so I'm very, very excited. But although and I'm talking about this a lot, but although color mixing is not a strong suit of mine, I felt that the forest green, when I first swatched it, was a little too blue. And the same thing with the plum dandy. It was also a little too blue. And I'm so glad that I still listened to my gut and went for those colors, because the yellows and these oranges warmed up all of those tones, still giving us that perfect almost pine green in here versus it feeling too teal. And so with the green, I was always going to use that green, but when it came to the red, going for the plum dandy versus the cabernet, I think was absolutely the right choice because of the way that the oranges warmed it up. And so gave us more of these red oranges in here, but still giving us that sort of purple tone that I really wanted to capture. I had one last colorway from this stream, our yarn mop, and this is the skein where while I was sprinkling on the powder here, I wiped my gloves onto this one. So we've got white in the mix, and you can see a bit more of the blueness of that forest green and how purple the plum dandy really is. And so I think that that can give you a feel of how the colors blending really gave us the perfect green that I wanted. This colorway has more white, but it also fits our inspiration so well and feels very fall. And I don't know, I love this technique. I love, 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 love this technique. All of the yarn I dyed in this stream is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering Weight yarn, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. If you would like to learn more about this yarn base or the other tools and equipment that I frequently use in my live streams, including my camera equipment, you can find affiliate links to everything down in the video descriptions of almost all my videos. So it's always worth checking that out for more information. And now it is time to take a look at the yarn that you dyed, inspired by these same inspiration photos. This is my favorite part of the dye along because so many of us can look at the same photo and come up with a different way to do it. Maybe you went for a gradient, or for speckles, or for pulling just one of those tones and did a bunch of semi-solids. There are so many different ways that any artist can pull colors from one inspiration, and we might end up with something that looks very similar or very different, and it is so, so fun. A huge thank you to everyone who dyed along with me and then submitted your photos for me to include in this recap. If you would like to be featured in a future ChemKnits Dye Along recap, just dye some yarn inspired by the inspiration photo and then share it with me. Use the hashtag ChemKnits Dye Along on Instagram, or find the inspiration photo on Facebook and reply with a photo comment. And yeah, I'll pull a bunch of the pictures to include in the recap. The recaps typically come out, I would say, 3 to 5 weeks after the live stream. So that's the typical period of time. But if you missed the recap, still feel free to share the photos. I know that we all love to see it. Just if it's outside of, I would say, a month from when the inspiration photo come up, just include what month inspired you. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I love excuses to push myself out of my blue-purple comfort zone. Orange is not a comfort zone for me at all, and I want to explore more. I want to play more. What other colors would you like to see me play more with? Brown is something that I have been itching to explore more and to dive more into in the coming months. But I know that there's always a lot of requests for green as well. So please let me know the colors or maybe themes for inspiration that you think I should consider. I do read all of the comments and keep notes. So thank you so much for all the suggestions that you provide. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.